Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I've got this DCH273 SDS machine, and today I'm going to do a complete teardown of this to show you how this machine goes together, or more accurately, comes apart. In order to tear one of these things apart, you don't need any fancy tools. You just need a little screwdriver, a Torx T20 screwdriver or butt, a pair of rubber gloves because it gets messy in there, a couple of little things to hold all the small butts and screws that you're going to take off this machine. I've got this nice little Sortimo tub and this chicken and mushroom pot noodle tub. You don't have to use chicken and mushroom flavour, you can use any flavour. Right, I'm going to start this detailed teardown, and this is going to be longer than a lot of my recent videos because I want to just show you exactly how this thing comes apart. First of all, remove the handle. Next step is pop this off, and there's a little spring in here. This is where you got to be careful. Hold your finger there. I've lost these springs before because they'll go off into the wilderness. You'll never find them. Don't take them out properly. Now every screw in this is a T20. These are all the same around the sides. This one's a slightly different screw, but it's the same size thing to remove it. That comes straight off. Next thing is the chuck. I just popped on the gloves because sometimes these chucks can be messy, sometimes not. If they're properly serviced, they can be messy. If somebody's greased it, it can be messy. But I think the case with this one, it's not messy because it's dry. You can see that the low ring has to come off first. It's not hard to take off, but it's harder to take off when I'm showing you, because I have to stand a sort of an awkward angle to let the camera see everything. So the chuck's usually dirty. This hasn't been greased or anything. It's dry as a bone, which I don't advise on that. Grit in there. That's one thing I'm going to have to sort in this. When I put it back together, I'm going to have to grease it properly, give it a good old once over. And you see the ball in there, and take the pressure off, and especially when it's dry like that, it'll drop straight out. I put the chuck parts into that little pot little box. There's this washer and this spring. Observe the way that spring comes up, narrow side down to the bottom, and that's the chuck off. This thing is full of dirt. That's the chuck off. So what you do is remove all the screws around the side. There's a, and at the back here. I've serviced a lot of these over the last year. I did quite a long video on probably the first one of these I've pulled apart, the 273. It wasn't a great video because I didn't know exactly what way everything went together, but I have a better idea now. I have a better idea what to look for in the faults, so the point of this video is not to show the repair as such, to show how everything comes apart. So hopefully if you need to tear this down or want to have a look, you can have the confidence to do it without, for fear of not getting stuck with. If you get stuck, you can always refer to this video. It'll always be there. It'll not be a good performing video because it's too slow paced and they don't perform well on YouTube, but I don't care. This is not for me, it is to help you out, the people who watch my channel. And there's nothing better if you get stuck fixing something and you don't know enough about it, and you go on YouTube and the video you want is just there. So I want to provide that for you today. Let's see, I have one more screw. This is the part that'll get a lot of people, because you have to be really aggressive with it, because it comes apart here at the seam and you have to pop that off. You have to use a bit of force. Somebody's been in here before because the label's away, and there should be a wee silver thing here. She'll go without it, but that's slightly concerning. Somebody's been here before. So that spring sits in like that here. See? So we'll pull that spring out first of all. Should be in there. Pull that spring out in one piece. And there's a little thing here I want to show you. These small bits are important here. There's a small bit there that holds the battery connector. It holds a bit of tension. The battery connector connects to the battery. I'm going to show you this as well. All these little small bits. Those are all the bits that you forget when you're putting it back together. But it's going to be here forevermore for you to see how this all works. No visible damage to the wires anyway. That's not really what's wrong with this thing. There's a spring loaded thing here comes out, and it can be tricky to get in later on, but we'll worry about that later. There it is now. And there's the silver thing I thought was missing out of here. That's there. That's good. That's the spring loaded thing goes up there. And we'll pull this next side off by the same means, if you remember. Yep. And the silver thing's there as well. See how much dust was in this thing. And you have to pop this gear hammer assembly out of the casing like this. Okay, so now you're in business. We can get into this is the brushless motor, and this is the hammer assembly, and the same T20 screws all the way around. The only thing, there's two here. That are much longer than the rest. The rest of them standard. The same as we took out of the outer casing. Speed that up a bit. Should have done that earlier. I'm not going to apologise for the length of this video, because the point I'm making is this is going to be very detailed. If you want a video for entertainment, this is not it. This is a video for detail. I have plenty of good quick entertaining repairs out there on my channel. See that came off? Okay, so check any of them out if you're into that, and I appreciate you guys. Get over there, have a look, leave a comment. Good or bad, I'll take them all. Now this is a part of this assembly. This top part comes off independent of this bottom part. You don't have to take off that. I can see what's wrong right away there. Look at that. This part comes off independent of this bottom part, which houses the brushless motor. But in order to fix this thing today, we'll not have to remove it. But I'm going to remove it because of the detail required in this video. That's the brushless motor. It's got a bit dusty, but it's okay. But I'm going to show you now, when we have this open, what is actually wrong with this thing. Let me pop this out. See that shaft? That shaft is completely sheared off. You can have a look at that. And lucky enough, I'll have one. There's a wee washer. Let's see. This is why I need the gloves now. There's a wee washer. That washer goes here, you know. I'll leave that there. After a good old rummage in the spares box, I found one of these, which is the part we need to replace that. That's the broken part. That's why this thing wasn't hammered. We'll have to get the other half out of this shaft. Check these other shafts to see if they're actually intact. So that's good. That was the weakest link this time. Get this out of the. That out of there. Right, I finally managed to get that out of this. So that's pretty good. I can put that back in where it goes. In there. But before we put this back together, there is something else. You see that there? There's no resistance in that piston. No resistance in that. That means need a new O-ring on there. Need to re-grease that before we put it back together. So to get right into servicing this hammer, what you do is you pull that out. And pull that out, and your fine screwdriver comes in again. You pop this O-ring off. O-ring don't look too bad, but there's probably wear on it. I have a spare one here. It's very hard to tell if there's any difference really, but don't know if they're any better or worse. Doesn't really matter anyway. I think it's good to change that O-ring if you have a spare one. If you don't, you got to use what you have. Check the casing for debris as well if something's broke. Like there's a little spring was sitting on there, and that spring's off this. So that's something you need to watch out for. I have this special grease from Makita. You see the part number of it there. That's available on Amazon, and if we can find the link, I'll put it in the description, and hopefully pinned in the comment section as well. This is finer grease than the grease you use for the chuck or this mechanism, and you don't use much, you just use a little bit. No, that's not working. I need a different O-ring. That O-ring's no good. Try this other one. See if it makes any difference at all. No. There's wear there. There's wear. After another rummage in the spares box, I found a new O-ring. That's the number of it. It's a dynamic O-ring. It's an N114827. So hopefully that'll make the difference. Hopefully there'll be enough. We know it's not the O-ring if this doesn't solve the problem. What better? Oh. Yeah, I'll grease that just a little bit more, not too much. Just a little bit. And the new O-ring is making the difference, I think. You see there's a bit of resistance there, it's pushing back up. That's what the old O-ring wasn't doing. So that should work. You put that together and you feel that bit of resistance there. That's just providing your hammer action there. And that sometimes can be all that's wrong with these. Sometimes it's just the it's just the O-ring. In this case it was a broken shaft like I've shown, which is common also, but more often than not it's the O-ring. A broken shaft and the O-ring, or just the O-ring. We got lucky with this one. I had something in the spares box, and that's not the worst shaft to break either, because it's not the most expensive. I've seen this shaft down the middle of this broke, and usually if you don't have a spare one in the second hand box, it's game over. So that sets on there like that. You want to make sure that pin's lined up there. At this stage is to put the mode switch on and to help line this up. And when you have that in position, you should be able to push that up and down, you know. When you have that lined up, you can take off that switch again and just put the lid on. But before you put the lid on, it's probably a good idea to get ordinary type of grease, heavy grease on around these, you know. Grease on around this area. A wee bit on there. I'll keep things moving. And inside the chuck, pull the chuck as well, if you can. You have everything in place properly. That should just sit down nicely. You know, all your things should be sitting on nice and neat, and that should sit down properly. There's a hole for this pin to go into. It's important to have that lined up too. Sometimes you might need the aid of the switch again, but be careful not to turn it upside down because everything will fall out when you're doing that. Just see if you can line everything. That did take a bit of lining up, and I did have to use this switch to put everything into place. But the next thing is just put on all the screws. If you remember from earlier, the two longer screws go in here, and the other ones are just shorter ones. They're all the same length. So that's all the screws in the housing. So the next thing is to try and put this together. Before we do that though, we could do a little test to see if it's going. Right, plug in a battery in like this, seeing if she's performing the 3 modes, which she is the thing to do at this stage before you put everything back together. I thought there was a bit of hesitancy in the switch, so I sprayed some contact cleaner in the switch mechanism. I think it's punchier now. So that's a good tip also when you're doing this fire, especially with a lot of dirt inside it. Next stage of reassembly, which is where we're at now. Let's push that through the hole, as they say. Push that onto the housing, like that. And you can fit the wee switch at this stage, but that can wait to the end. You can fit the chuck at this stage, but I'll let that wait to the end also. I just think it's better if you have that bit of movement and you can get everything lined up first before you make everything solid. So we've got to put everything into position here now. We've got to put all the switch and the electronic stuff into position. You see that little metal parts there, that little cylindrical piece is there. That housing has to go on. You get that housing on, you go like that. Okay, now flip it again. That all slots in. And this is where the fun starts. You need all your little bits that we have hopefully successfully put away properly. You can see what I'm doing there, everything got in there. Okay. There's a place for everything, and everything in its place. See, that's going to be a bad idea. You need to put the wires somewhere where they'll not get flattened by the case and they're nipped. That can cause you problems later on. But that's looking pretty good now. You have to add these springs, loaded things. That's it. Job. Sometimes you get this pushed into position. And that's it now. The next spring, I believe, is this one. But before we do that, we need to put that housing on. That was a bit of an omission by me. That should have been on and all. I should have had that on before I put that into the casing. So that's why putting these things together is kind of tricky. It's kind of a trick in its own. but you're better putting that on before you do what I did, then into the housing. But we can do it. Make sure those two lugs is on either side. We're able to put it in there and put the screw back in. Very easy to forget a lot of these little bits, and that's why I'm doing this video, because a tear down rebuilding these, there's so many different bits. Bits can get lost, bits can get forgotten about, and I'm going to endeavour to try and not do that today and give you the best tutorial I can actually, I'm mentally and physically able to give you, you know. So that's where that goes now. So that's the two springs on, and next step, there's some of these smaller bits now, if you remember. Yeah, this little piece here, it goes in here, and that's fairly important because it keeps the tension on the connector, so it keeps making contact with the battery. It keeps that bit of tension, especially this here. This vibrates the cable when it's working, so it needs to be in there. And there's a little metal piece here too, you can see that, and it goes on here like this. There's the forward reverse slider for the switch. Okay, and that looks fairly good, fairly good. We're nearly ready for this part here, the top, and that little metal piece, that cylindrical piece, if you remember, that in there. Before we do that, I might put two screws on here just to hold things in place a little bit. See if that works. Right. So everything in its place. Time for the lid to go back on. Here goes. Have to try and get this on. Sometimes I find prying with the screwdriver here, get that lined up, helps. Also, you have to line up the switch and the little spring thing at the top, and this thing at the bottom always fights back these two things. And there's something out of place there, and make sure your everything's in place there. So that's it. There we are. That's feeling healthier now. So all I have to do is get all the screws on, the chuck on, the switch on, we're good to go. That's all the screws on. I put the side on now, and you can see there's a little shape there, and it fits neatly over the same shape here, fits straight on. And you put the screw in first, and then you put the little spring in, same size about again. That's it. And little spring, so the little spring in here, and the little lid, and there's only one way it can go on, so it's fairly straightforward. That's the mode selector, so there's that. Also, I think the chuck is the final piece. It's the final piece. So all the chuck parts are there, and they go on in a certain order. That's like a little washer. That usually gets disintegrated. That's not the worst. It might keep that on. It's to keep the heavy grease out of the inside. But I don't know if it serves its purpose too well or not. But anyway, it's alright. Whatever. See, this washer goes on here. That. You put the pressure on, drop the little ball in. Yep. You put this on. You put the little washer on. Retain clip. That's it back together. So put the handle on just for just to finish the job. And those are 3 pieces that were removed. This should have been 2 pieces, that was the problem. This broke. And that washer, as you could see the difference in the new O-ring and the old O-ring. It made all the difference. Chuck might need a little bit more grease. That's pretty darn good. So that's this DCH273 back together, and hopefully that'll show you how to take apart and reassemble it and repair it in the process. So if you liked this video or found it anyway useful, give it a thumbs up and check out my channel for all my other videos.